Hey guys, welcome to another Game Explained discussion. I'm your host, Andre Seegers, and this time we're joined by Ash Paulson, as well as special guests Josh Thomas of the BitBlock and Rogers Base to discuss our expectations and predictions for Nintendo Switch presentation on January 12th. So, let's get started. Well, that was a bit of a mouthful there. Anyways, Nintendo just surprisingly announced that they are having another Switch event on January 12th, in which they'll announce the price, the launch date, as well as talk about the games coming to the Switch, presumably both at launch as well as after. So, you know what? I thought, let's get together and talk about this, both our expectations as well as our exact predictions for what we want from this. Anyways, the way they announced this is the exact opposite of how they announced the first Switch unveiling, in which they gave us literally 24 hours notice, whereas this time they gave us over 2 months notice, which is pretty nuts. And as part of that, they also mentioned that this will be a presentation for invited media, financial analysts, and trade partners in Tokyo that they're globally live streaming, which leads me to believe this is going to be like this might be similar to a stage event along the lines of E3 or old E3s for Nintendo. So, what do you guys think about all of that? We won't get into the predictions just yet, but what do you think about, this event being announced so early, as well as what do you expect from the event in terms of format and all that?
I mean, live reaction-wise, as somebody who does live reactions, I think live press conferences are always better, just because you have the excitement of the room, even if it's just press. And even though it's Japanese press, who aren't normally known for really getting super excited,
right.
I think it's still good to have a live presentation. I think it brings a different type of energy, and it's something that Nintendo's sorely been missing for 5-6 years. I mean, when was the last time they did a live presentation?
It's been a while, yeah, 3 years. 3 years, I think.
Was it the Wii U's launch?
Was that
not the launch? I mean, announcement.
Might have been.
I guess so. I guess 2012 might have been the last one. Yeah.
Wow.
That ending Nintendo Land fireworks thing just ended all their press conferences.
I mean, if that's the case, and I think that it is, their last live conference was the Wii U's announcement, then they should do this for the Switch, just because it shows, not only the energy that you get from a live presentation, but also just the confidence that shows Nintendo has in their system. If they haven't done this since the Wii U's announcement, then it goes to follow. It's appropriate that they're going to do it for the I want to say re-reveal, I guess, or the second reveal of their upcoming home console. So yeah, I'm glad they're doing it as well.
Yeah, didn't Nintendo do... they did do some kind of press conference in Japan, I believe, for the 3DS and the Wii U, really close to launch, and it seems like this might be something similar to that, to where, they have the Japanese executives from Nintendo talking about stuff, and then they have, a translator talking over it for, English audiences. I kind of hope it's not that, and it's more close to an E3 kind of spectacle, to where it's an exciting stage conference.
So I actually want to talk about something real quick while you brought that up, Josh, which is that they announced too that there's going to be a live event in Japan. I forgot what the name of the venue center is, but the venue center is bigger than the venue that was used for last year's Tokyo Game Show, and there's basically going to be an event on the 13th and the 14th. Correct me if I'm wrong, Andre and Ash, where it's going to be a live public event for the Nintendo Switch, and then that event is preceded by this live presentation on the 12th. So I think this broadcast is a separate presentation. I don't think it's part of the actual public event. I think that's a whole separate thing.
Yeah, I think you're right. That was my understanding as well.
The thing on the 12th is the thing they're live streaming, and then the public event, if they can play it, comes the day or two after.
Right.
Yeah.
Did I imagine that, or wasn't there some kind of stage conference where Bill Trinen was demonstrating Metroid Blast a month before the Wii U launched? Wasn't that a thing?
I remember the Wii U one. That was one in New York, right?
Yeah, there was a New York one, right.
Okay. But the 3DS one, that was similar to that, where there was a stage conference. I forgot what the name of it was. I think it was in 2011. But there was a Nintendo 3DS conference in Japan as well that was at a venue center that you would normally have a convention. And that was where they did the live jazz medley of Animal Crossing and Mario and Donkey Kong and Zelda. Do you guys remember what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I remember that one.
Yeah.
I kind of do.
So I think, I don't really know what this is going... Do we know what this is, exactly going to be?
No. I mean, all they said
don't.
is they're announcing price, launch date, and games, and that it'll be a live stream from Tokyo. That's all we know.
I think we can safely say it's not a direct because they didn't announce it as a direct, so it's at least not that, probably. But other than that, we don't really know any specifics about the format of the event or who's going to host it or how they're going to host it.
Yeah, the whole thing's a little bit... just all very vague and just a little bit... it's mysterious. And so, Ash, I agree with you. I think on the surface, this is exciting. I said before, when we discussed how we wanted the Switch to be announced, I'm like, well, a live stream would be great. And though they didn't do that for the reveal, it seems like they are doing that now. Because there is like a certain energy and confidence, as you mentioned, that kind of like goes hand in hand with the live streams, assuming it all goes well. But I think, was you, Roger, or Josh, you guys brought up the point of how are they going to do this exactly with it being streamed from Tokyo? Is there just going to be a translator speaking over like Kimishima or whoever's presenting in Japanese? And I could see that coming across as potentially boring. I mean,
right?
I've heard I've heard conferences like that before, and usually the person who's translating is not emoting at all, which I guess makes sense. But I'm just concerned about how that will come across to people watching this.
They got to bring Bill Trinan on stage because he normally does a good job of like being exciting when he's live translating. So
that's true. Yeah.
Yeah.
I have a feeling it's going to be a bit of a drier event, like maybe kind of a more corporate flavored event, just because reading the press release about this January 12th event, they were talking about how they're going to invite business partners and analysts and invited media, and that sounds to me more of kind of like a drier corporate flavored presentation than a fun, direct-ish presentation. I have a feeling this is less for the fans than it is for the media and investors and business partners.
Do you think that's a good idea, though? I kind of feel like I want maybe it's just the Nintendo fan in me, but I want it to be, like, really exciting and kind of fast-paced, throwing games with, like, sizzle reels and all that exciting stuff. Like, remember when they first showed us the Wii, how many games we saw and how, I was getting excited for games in those, like, Wii sizzle reels that I didn't care about at all, but I was just like, oh, it's, there was an energy about it, and I feel like they really need to bring that energy. And I'm not saying they won't. They very well could, and I'm hoping they will. But I'll be really sad if this is more of a kind of corporate show you 4 games very slowly sort of a deal.
Yeah.
For once, I totally agree with Josh.
Wow,
I know, scary, right?
A couple of times now in our discussions. What's happening here? I don't get it.
I'm evolving.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree. Like, if going from the email, it sounds bland, but I honestly can't imagine it will. I mean, maybe it will. Who freaking knows? But I'm with you, Josh. I think this should be more exciting. I mean, the way they presented the reveal was exciting, and I think they need to carry that energy and momentum into the live conference. So I wonder if, even though they didn't call it a direct, if it might have elements of a direct. So I'm actually kind of expecting now that I'm thinking about it more, maybe like it'll have some pre-recorded video segments in there. So maybe it'll launch with one locally for each region before going into the stage presentations, perhaps. In which case, having maybe a duller translation or any kind of translation won't be as jarring if the entire thing were just a live stream. I don't know. Maybe it will be. I don't know. But I do hope it has that energy.
Yeah. Well, especially this will be, when this happens, it'll be 2 months away from launch. So, I mean, I'm with you guys. I want it to be fun and for the fans. I just, based on that email, I'm not completely sure it will be. But I totally agree with all of you that it should be, especially only 2 months out from launch. Mm-hmm. But maybe, maybe they'll take that 2 months to reach out to the fans if they don't on January 12th.
Yeah, I kind of thought it was weird that people were complaining about them announcing this so early, because it was like, what's going to happen over the course of the next 2 months? People would just be bombarding them with tweets. When's the presentation going to be? When's the presentation going to be? So I think announcing it now and just giving us the 2 months to speculate and sort of breathe before they do the big reveal of all the stuff, like the launch games and the price and everything, I do actually think that's smart. And kind of back to what you were saying too, is I think maybe the public event is going to be where they're going to have all that excitement. The issue with that is that might not be what we're seeing. Like, I don't think they're going to have Treehouse Live stuff from that public event that's at Tokyo Big Sight. I think this is just going to be the only live presentation thing. And just as you guys have already brought up, if it's dry, I think that might suck a lot of the energy out of the room.
Yeah, I agree with you. I'm thinking maybe, what if they have the live event and then they have some pre-recorded stuff ready to go for fans at the same time? Kind of like a canned mini direct or something. Like, so people aren't watching that, but they're watching, some pre-recorded thing set to go live at the same time. That's meant more for fans.
Yeah, I mean, they could definitely have, a really exciting website for all territories to check out. Like, they could have something that's just a website filled with tons of trailers and screenshots and information about games. So even if this event... we don't really know. This could be the most exciting thing in the world. I have confidence.
Right, yeah.
I'm not, damning Nintendo here. I have confidence they'll do the right thing. But, even if it were dry, they could still have, a really well-designed website that gives us just tons of exciting trailers and sizzle reels and stuff like that.
Well, you kind of touched on something there. I mean, regardless of how bland or not the presentation itself might be, the games themselves will speak for themselves. So if they have good games to show, it really doesn't matter that much how bland everything else is. The games the games will stand on their own, and that's what will really excite people. With that said, I would like everything to be, as exciting as possible, but, who knows what we're going to get here.
Well presented. I mean, this is the first time we'll be seeing a lot of these games, and they say, first impressions are everything. So
That's true.
Yeah, hopefully it's a very exciting first impression.
Let's go ahead and I think we can probably start giving our predictions here. And of course, some of our predictions are going to be along the same lines here because they literally talked about what some of the things that they'll be touching on. So let's go and start off with price. What do you expect for a price on the Switch, based on what we know of it so far?
Prior to this, I would have said, or a few days ago, I would have said $249. Seems like a safe price for them to come in at. Now, after Kimishima's statement that they're not going to be selling the Switch at a loss, yet they're also taking fan expectations into account, I'm starting to think maybe $299 might be where they come in, just because they're not going to sell it at a loss. Now, what they could also do is they could have two SKUs like they did with the Wii U, $249 and $299, with the $299 version having, maybe a little more storage space, or maybe it comes with the Pro controller or something like that. But I don't think it's going to be above $299. I don't see how it could possibly.
So are you locking in your price at $299 then? Like if you had to choose a single price?
Yes, $299, only because Kimishima said they're not selling it at a loss. Otherwise, I would have said $249.
Okay.
I 100% agree with you, too, because last night when I read that statement, that was immediately where my mind went. I thought, yep, it's going to be $249.99, $250, nice. Jumped up to $299, but I actually think that there are also going to be two SKUs. I'm guessing the standard SKU is going to be the $299, and I'm thinking the deluxe SKU, which might include like a game and the controller and maybe some of the other like extra accessories, kind of like what would happen with the Wii U. I think that extra SKU is going to be another $50. So I'm guessing the deluxe SKU is going to be $350, and that the regular version is $299. But I want to clarify, because I made the same prediction on Twitter last night, and some people were like, what? You think there's going to be like more memory in one version or less in another? I actually think the system itself, the core system, is going to be the same in both. I just think the deluxe version is going to be like a bundle. I think they kind of realized that like by releasing the basic SKU and the deluxe SKU of Wii U, there were tons of people who were complaining that there wasn't enough room on the actual system with the basic Wii U system to even download like a single game. Like you can't download Xenoblade Chronicles X on a basic Wii U. So I think they're not going to make the same mistake again. I think it's going to be the same system, the same memory, but just with a lot of extra stuff bundled in, like what you mentioned, the controller and like a game or something like that. But again, if I had to make a single price, if they were just going to release one SKU, my guess is $299, but I do think that it'd be $50 more for a deluxe SKU, and that's my other prediction.
Yeah, I think I would agree with you guys. I think it'll be $300, $299. Although, actually, in the past, I have said many times, like when me and Roger would discuss this, that I think they will have multiple SKUs. I'm kind of thinking maybe they won't, because I think Nintendo wants to try and make this as simple to understand as possible, at least right out of the gate at launch. So I think there will just be one SKU, it'll be one version, and it'll be $300. So yeah, I think that to make sure things don't get complicated and confusing like they did with the Wii U, they might want to streamline that a bit and just release with one SKU at $300.
Yeah, I actually totally agree with you, Josh, and that's causing me physical pain to say. Right? So, I mean, it sounds like we're all agreed on price. I think $299. I was kind of leaning toward potentially $250 before, but I am definitely in the ballpark of $299 now. I think that's what they'll hit. I think there will only be one SKU, too. I think Wii U probably scared them to death. I don't think they want to do anything that Wii U did again, and I think having two SKUs was part of the messaging problem they had. So I think there will be only one SKU, especially given the report today from, or the rumor from Laura Kate Dale, that there is a micro SD card slot on the system. So I think they'll just give you the baseline, memory, whatever it is, 32 gigabytes perhaps, and then everything will be user expandable at that point with SD cards. So I do think they'll hit on just one SKU. Maybe they'll introduce more down the line, but at this point, I think it's just going to be one.
Curiously, do you know offhand like what the biggest side SD card would be? Like what the biggest size would be?
Well, I think according to the rumor, she said right now it might be 128, but I think she also mentioned it could go beyond that, and I hope they do, because this is a weird system. Nintendo is positioning it as a home console, but 128 gigabytes is nothing these days. I mean, I feel like they're going to have to offer more than that if they're able to.
That is, by the way, Andre, that is what I read. 128 gigabytes is currently the max, I guess, on dev kits right now, but I just wanted to, that is what they said.
Yeah, I actually don't know what the largest SD cards go right now, so...
I want to say I heard that they started doing terabyte, like 1 terabyte ones, but I could be wrong, or they might just be very expensive. I could be wrong. I think I just heard that through the grapevine, but I know they're obviously more than 128, maybe 512. I don't know.
So I just did a quick Google search, and it looks like 512 might be the current cap. I'm not entirely sure here. That's just a quick search. But I am seeing mentions of perhaps 1 terabyte coming down the line too. So, I mean, that's a quick Google search. Those are probably insanely expensive, or will be if they're not out yet, but, I mean, those would drop in price down the line. So I really hope they design the system with future compatibility in mind.
Yeah, no, same here.
Yeah. Do you guys think, as part of that price, or I guess this is kind of a more general prediction, but what do you think will come with the system? I think, the dock, I think, is a sure thing. I think there's no chance in hell the dock is separate. I mean, even if there are separate SKUs, I think it'll come in every SKU possible. I think it'll come with the Joy-Con grip controller as well. And the main question here is, do you think there'll be a pack-in as well? Could there be a pack-in game? Like, we had Wii Sports, and actually that's why I'm leaning toward there possibly being one. Simply because I think they may want to emulate Wii as closely as possible, and with Zelda potentially being a launch title, having a different pack-in game, maybe something that showcases some of the system's features, might not be a bad idea, kind of like what Wii Sports did.
Yeah, I agree. I think that packing in a game has never proved to not be amazing. I mean,
That's a good point, yeah.
Yeah.
So, but the question is, like, what could this system's Wii Sports be?
Right.
I think the Switch is going to be amazing, but I don't know, like, that it necessarily opens up some wacky new ways to play games like the Wii did. So it's like, how do you make a game that makes you say, oh my god, I get why the Switch is so amazing? You know what I mean? Like, how is there a game that identifies with the Switch?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think, like, if you go back to the NES and you go back to, like, all the other consoles prior to that, or, I mean, I should say after that, most of those systems didn't have, like, minigame games. They were packed in with actual games. Like, the NES had Super Mario Brothers and Duck Hunt packed in. Like, how crazy would it be? I don't necessarily think they're going to do this, so don't put me down as, like, saying this prediction's going to come true. But how crazy would it be if they bundle in Breath of the Wild? Like, what a way to sell a system. If they bundle in their main game, go back to, like, the old style of the original Nintendo and say, hey, you want the killer app bundled in? Here's the killer app. And then it gets those people who would maybe still buy Breath of the Wild on Wii U to then reevaluate, like, should I just buy it on Wii U? Or should I just might as well, like, get the Switch if it comes bundled in with the Switch? And I think that might actually bring some people over and get those people to play the Switch version. Because not everybody is like the four of us. Like, all of us are going to play Breath of the Wild on the Switch. Guaranteed. But not everybody is like that. And I think if they were to bundle that game in with the system, that could potentially bring over a lot of new consumers.
I agree. My only counterpoint to that is, are they undercutting their own sales or their own sales potential with Breath of the Wild by doing that? Just because this is a game that they must already know is going to sell gangbusters, whether they pack it in with the Switch or not. And I just wonder, if they pack it in, are they undercutting their own, the Breath of the Wild's own sales potential?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, everything Roger said is true, but same thing with, I think everything you said is true as well, Ash. And I don't think that's why they're going to pack it in. I mean, it would be a great idea. It would help sell systems, but I do think that would severely cut into Nintendo's potential profits, especially given how much money they must have sunk into the development of Breath of the Wild. I mean, the only way I can see them packing it in is if they literally raise the price of the Switch by the amount that they would charge for Breath of the Wild. And I think at that point, you're potentially hampering Switch sales. So I don't see that happening. I think people would buy the system, regardless of whether Breath of the Wild, potentially, whether it's bundled or not, for the most part.
I can see them packing it in the year 2019. Like down the line when it's basically made all the money it will make as an individual game, and then using it as a reason for people to pick up this system. Maybe.
Right. So in terms of thinking about what they could pack in, though, because I do think it wouldn't be a bad idea. I'm wondering if they might do something more multiplayer focused. A big portion of that reveal was multiplayer. See people taking the system with them everywhere, playing it with whoever's around. And they could make like a multiplayer game that can take advantage of the system in any of its unique configurations. Whether it's two people on one screen, whether it's playing, connecting it with other people who have Switches nearby, or maybe as something I think we touched on in our Mario Kart discussion, which I don't think will be up by the time this goes up, where maybe you can even have someone playing with their own Switch while someone else is playing on the TV, perhaps in a asymmetrical way, a la Nintendo Land. So I do wonder if we might get something that showcases those features, kind of like Wii Sports. I don't think any game they could pack in would have that level of accessibility, but I do think we might get something along the lines of like, Face Raider or any of those other small 3DS tech demos. Something that might be, fun as a distraction, but nothing that would, sell by itself.
I still can't believe they made a game called Face Raiders and didn't change that name before they released it. That's still, I can't believe that.
Yeah. Okay, let's go with Street Pass. Street Pass would be the better example because I know you're a huge fan of that, Ash.
I
that's
am.
basically built in, yeah.
Well, you guys think that Street Pass is going to be on this, right?
I don't know.
I don't know. I don't know how much Nintendo internally sees Street Pass to be a success. I mean, I will say that I was surprised when they updated the Plaza yet again in the last Direct. Like, I thought it was done. I thought they'd kind of just quietly abandoned it, but they clearly haven't. So the fact that Street Pass is still getting new content this late into the 3DS's life, it does somewhat suggest that there could be an iteration of it, or at least something inspired by it, on the Switch, especially because, Nintendo's encouraging you to take your Switch around with you and carry it around, even though it isn't as portable as a 3DS, of course. So it's hard to say, but wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, I can see. I can see them maybe doing something with like a Street Pass app on like mobile devices. I think that would work really well because you already take your phone with you, whereas like constantly taking the Switch controller or the screen with you is a little bit more difficult.
Yeah, I was shocked that Mitomo didn't have that from the get-go.
Yeah.
That's a great point. I thought about that before. It'd be really cool if there were just an app on your phone. Because even though 3DS is portable, I don't take it with me anywhere. I play it at home.
Right.
And the Switch, I have a feeling, is going to be pretty similar. Like, I like that it's convenient to take elsewhere, but I'll probably rarely take advantage of that. If they did make it a phone app that can share data with people, as you're walking around, I think there'd be a lot of potential there. What they should do is just make a Focus Nintendo app on your phone where you go for like your one-stop shop to access anything on your Switch or whatever else. Maybe even virtual console games in the future, which would be badass, but I think we're maybe getting ahead of ourselves here. All right, well, I don't want to step on any of your toes here with predictions, but I do have one final broad topic we bring up before we dive into our nitty-gritty predictions. Do you think we're going to get specific specs about the Switch here, whether tech specs or maybe more specifically battery life?
Battery life, yes, but I don't think they'll go really into detail. Nintendo generally isn't one to go into detail really about their systems. We kind of find that out through third-party sources.
Right.
I think they will talk about like the battery life.
I hope they do. I mean, I don't know. I think the main question is how disappointing is that battery life? If it's really bad, they may not talk about it. But I mean, at that point, the main question is, when do you announce that? Because they have to announce it at some point, and they're probably gonna want to do it when it might be overshadowed by all the good news. So maybe they will talk about it here. Kind of like how when Sony was talking about their PlayStation Network or PlayStation Plus for the PS4 during its reveal, and they kind of slipped in there that the multiplayer is now exclusive to it, meaning you have to pay for it. No one noticed that. No one knows that because there's so much good news surrounding it. No one cared that you had to pay for, or no one seemed to care that you had to pay for multiplayer now, whereas that was free on PS3.
I actually completely agree with you. I think that's exactly what they might do, because you made a great point about Sony's messaging there. That little bit of news got completely lost amid all the good news. So I completely see Nintendo going that route, because I can tell you right now, or at least my own prediction on this, there is no version of this where the Switch comes out and it has great battery life. It's just not going to happen.
Yeah.
Period. It's not going to happen.
I mean, I will be honestly shocked if it reaches 5 hours of battery life. I'll be impressed, relative to my expectations.
I'll be shocked if it reaches 4.
I just want to say, I'm tired of being surrounded by these negative Nintendo Nancys. I'm so sick of I think I'm not even making a joke here. I genuinely think this is going to be a big priority for Nintendo, and I think they're going to find ways to get it to be 5+ hours. And I think one of the ways they could do this is having different lighting settings like they would with a traditional handheld controller like the 3DS. So if you dim it a little bit, you'll get more battery life out of it.
Yeah.
Nobody's really talked about that, really, have they? Nintendo certainly hasn't, but has anybody discussed whether or not we can actually dim the lighting on the screen?
I'm sure we can. Yeah,
you can. You can on the 3DS. Even has a low battery mode. I think on the gamepad too. The Switch will definitely have screen brightness options. Not just for battery issues, so that'll be a big one, but also because sometimes that screen's just way too bright for the setting you're playing in. Like if you're playing in bed, I don't want that screen shining at full brightness in my face.
I think we all probably then expect, how it sounds like, we all kind of expect 4. Like 4 is the absolute bare minimum. 6 is like hopeful, and 5 is like the middle ground optimistic that Josh is talking about. That seems to be like the range we're in.
Let's lock this in. Let's give our prediction on the battery life. I'm going officially 4 hours. I think they'll hit 4 hours of this, or I hope they hit 4 hours, but that's my prediction, 4 hours on this.
I'm
the brightest setting, right?
On average. I'm saying this will be the average. So whatever the figure they talk about will be 4 hours.
I think the figure they talk about will be 4 hours, more kind of like Apple does, but I think in practice it's going to be less than that, like 3 hours. Again, much like Apple. So I think the average will be 3 hours. I think maybe if you play with lowest settings, you might get 4 out of it, but I think you'll get less out of it if you play with the max settings. So I'm going to say 3 is going to be the average.
I think 4 is going to be the average. 5 is going to be what they talk about.
Okay.
So I think 4 is going to be the average on the highest intensity, and then I think if you dim it down and do the power saving stuff, you'll be able to get like maybe up to 6. I'm pretty hopeful.
Cool.
I'm actually positive. What is the world coming to when I'm the positive one? What is going on?
That shocks me. I mean, I'm just going by the Wii U gamepad. I mean, even with the extended battery that I installed, it still doesn't last more than like 3 hours usually, maybe a little less. So
Yeah, and the gamepad too is not the system.
That's
like,
true,
the
though.
system is not the gamepad.
Yeah.
Like, this is the system.
It's literally just a screen, although it does have to stream that video signal the entire time. But, you're totally right. So the fact that the Switch seems to be pretty darn powerful by handheld standards could be its Achilles' heels to some degree, at least when it comes to being portable. But we'll see. I mean, it does seem like, my guess is they're going to downclock the system when it's on the go, which makes sense. I mean, the screen, going by recent rumors, is 720p, whereas I'm sure it'll be outputting 1080p when you're playing at home, which means there's no reason why it has to run at full power if the screens can display games at a less optimal or at a lower resolution. All right, anyways, that covers it for battery. Let's go over our more specific predictions. And I'll go start things off here with what I think is a pretty obvious one. And we already kind of got into this on our Mario discussion. Zelda Breath of the Wild is a launch title. I know, it's crazy. But I think that'll be a launch title. And as part of that, I'll tie in one of my other predictions. Mario will be shown. It's going to be a holiday title. I don't think it'll be launch.
100% agree.
Darn
Yeah,
it.
me too.
What kind of discussion is this?
I will say this, though.
I disagree.
Here, we could throw in the ports in the mix, too, because we know about the ports as well. I'm going to say Breath of the Wild is at launch. November-ish is going to be, October, November-ish is going to be Mario. And I think it's also going to have Mario Kart at launch, with the Splatoon enhanced port coming probably around June.
Okay. Man, it's hard. Common sense tells me that Mario will not be at launch, but at the same time, wasn't one of those rumors we've been hearing about, I want to say from Emily Rogers, but one of those rumors talked about Mario being at launch. And I think that, at least I think it did, and Emily's been right on so far. So that's the only thing that kind of makes me doubt that Mario might not be at launch. Because, I mean, normally, yeah, there's no way Mario would make launch, but I feel like there's a chance, if I'm right about those rumors saying that it would be. Normally, though, I totally agree. Mario's not going to make launch. It would be holiday. I do agree with you, Roger, that Mario Kart actually is going to be a launch title. Mario Kart 8 sold 8 million on the Wii U, they just revealed, and that's well over half of the Wii U's overall install base, which is about 13 million. There's no way they can ignore that. So whatever this Mario Kart 8 is, whether it's 8.5, 8 plus, I don't know, whatever you want to call it, I absolutely believe Mario Kart's going to be there at launch because it was the Wii U's killer app by far.
Hear, Ash. Hear.
I agree with you, Ash. Mario Kart will be launch, I think. It makes sense. I mean, actually, I think that's going to be the Mario title at launch. To be fair, Ash, or this isn't quite fair because me, Roger, and Josh already kind of talked about this. But I don't think there's a chance in hell Zelda and the new 3D Mario launch on the same day.
That's a good point.
They're competing for the same market. I think they'd want to spread that out. And also, we had the quote from Miyamoto. At E3, he said that Mario, it might be shown at the following E3, which would be next year after launch. So I really don't think it's going to be a launch title for the Switch.
Well, how nice for you that you've already done this discussion and have this information ready to cherry pick. No, but yeah, but given that, now having been reminded of that, I completely agree, and that's also a great point. Other than them releasing Super Mario 3D World and A Link Between Worlds in the same day, which I still can't believe they did. That was a great day. I agree. There's no way they're going to launch with both the big new Mario and the big new Zelda on the same day. So, given all that, I completely agree. Zelda's launch, Mario's probably holiday.
While we're talking about the launch window and the launch games, though, I'm curious, of the ports that we've seen already, do you think there are going to be additional ports that will be there in launch or during the launch window? And if so, what do you think we're going to get in that first 6 months? Because obviously we haven't seen it yet, but I think they would be crazy to not have a Smash Brothers port there very early on, because I think you would get a lot of people who are hardcore Smash Brothers players who will buy the next version of Smash no matter what it is, even if it is a port. If it's considered the best version, they will go out and they will buy it. And I do actually think, especially because Emily Rogers talked about this in one of her tweets, sort of like what we were mentioning earlier, I think there's going to be an enhanced port of Smash 4 that we haven't seen yet, that's going to be shown during this presentation, that might have the Ice Climbers come back and a lot of the 3DS content in HD for the first time. And I think it's going to be announced there, and I think it's going to be out within the first 6 months.
So I'm going to challenge Roger on this. There is no such thing as the best Smash Brothers game to a hardcore Smash Brothers player. It already exists, and it's called Melee. And they'll never change their opinion on that, no matter what you do. So I think Nintendo would be much wiser to just be like, hey, we're launching with GameCube Virtual Console, and Smash Melee is one of them. That would just make them more money, because they have to put like next to no money into getting that out there. Yeah. And it's exactly what hardcore Smash Brothers fans want. So, bada bing, bada boom, there you go.
I mean, if that's the case, I would lose my mind.
I completely agree with you, Roger, and I disagree with you, Josh, and here's why. Melee may be the favorite Smash for hardcore Melee fans, but that is the most incredible of echo chambers. And I think a lot of Melee fans don't necessarily realize it. Like, a lot of people who play Smash who aren't Melee fans or, hardcore fans just want to know if this is the game where you can play as Cloud, or pit Mega Man against Samus, or pit Mario versus, Bayonetta. Like, they don't care whether wave dashing is in, or whether it has Melee's physics. So, actually, I don't think the money is in Melee HD for Nintendo. I think the money is in an enhanced port of Smash 4, which is why I completely agree with everything you said, Roger. I think it's going to come out in the first 6 months. I think it's going to have Ice Climbers in. I'm less sure about the 3DS content. I don't know about that. I would love for that to happen, but not sure. But Ice Climbers I definitely think will happen. I think there will be some other new content, maybe a few new stages. So completely agree. I do not think that the money is in Melee HD for Nintendo. I don't think that's happening.
Well, so I actually want that. I want what you guys are talking about. I want that like Smash 4 port that's got like a bunch of enhanced stuff. I just think that I think Nintendo has to have a GameCube section in their Virtual Console library, and I think having Melee as one of the first games to kick that off would probably work best, and they have to put no money into that. It's just literally, well, I mean, I'm sure there's some money, but, compared to, like, actually porting a game, I don't know.
I could see it as a supplementary thing. I mean, I don't think one has to cancel out the other. I think Melee could still be available on the Switch as part of a GameCube Virtual Console type deal. I just think that it's going to come after, or not, at least not at the same time as. I think it'll come after a proper enhanced port of Smash 4. Down the line, will we get a Melee Virtual Console release? Probably, yeah, but I just don't know if I see them doing a new version of it, like an HD online version. I don't see that happening. Especially because...
Could you imagine...
Huh?
Could you imagine launch day if we have Breath of the Wild and Melee HD on Virtual Console? Like, it would be done. There'd be no system. No system could ever come close to that level of hype. That would, I don't think it's going to happen. I totally agree with you, Ash. We're in complete agreement. But just the idea that you threw out there, Josh, is making me salivate.
Really?
Well, I guess one question is, do you predict they'll actually talk about Virtual Console at this event? Because I think they might be more focused on the new games instead of like looking backwards.
I think they can do both.
Yeah, me too.
It'd be nice. I mean, this really is the optimal system for Virtual Console. Like, you can play anywhere you want, on your TV or on the go. Like, this is the ideal platform for that.
Here's my big question with that, though, is that with the Virtual Console, we already know that Wii U and 3DS are not backwards compatible with this system. I mean, this is not backwards compatible with those two systems. Right. They've announced that already. So if that's the case, my big question was, okay, fine. It's not backwards compatible with the discs, obviously, because it doesn't have a disc drive, and it's not backwards compatible with the 3DS game cards. Fine. But they never clarified whether or not that includes eShop titles. And I think that is something they need to have for Virtual Console. Because I've now purchased Super Metroid twice. I've purchased it once on my Wii U and once on my Wii Virtual Console. So I have two versions of Super Metroid and two versions of Mega Man X on the exact same system in my house. I am not going to, even it's my favorite game of all time, I'm still not going to buy Super Metroid again to have it on the Switch. There needs to be some way to transfer your Virtual Console content from your Wii U and, in an ideal world, from your 3DS as well to your Switch. And I don't necessarily think they are going to do it, but I think it would be extraordinarily smart of them to.
I completely agree, and I think they need to do it at least for virtual console titles, because more and more, I think people are kind of voicing their displeasure with having to buy the same game a bunch of times. I mean, I completely hear you. I've bought basically every Mega Man game, I don't know how many times now, and I'll probably continue to, which is, I'm part of the problem. Sorry, guys. But at the same time, I do think that Nintendo needs to address this. I mean, Sony already has crossplay, and it's so well received. And, Nintendo's not exactly in a position to do what they want here. I mean, they kind of have to capitulate to at least some demands because they're not really in the strongest position right now. So I really do hope that they'll do something with the Virtual Console in terms of transferring your stuff over from at least your Wii U. I don't know so much about your 3DS, but at least your Wii U. And just the fact that they did have that, that $1, $2 promotion transferring your Virtual Console titles from your Wii to your Wii U makes me think they'll have something in place. I don't know if it's going to be the best solution or the cheapest solution for consumers, but I do think there will be a solution. It's just a matter of what it'll be.
Okay, prediction then. I think this will finally be the time when we get a proper Nintendo account. And I don't know for sure they'll talk about it or not, but I hope they do. And I think this will be the time where moving forward, all your stuff, all your games, all your purchases are finally locked to account, and they'll be forward compatible with whatever comes down the line. Like, whether it's Switch 2 or upgraded models, whatever.
Yeah, that'd be really great, because I bought maybe like 30 WiiWare games that just got deleted when my system broke.
Oh, jeez.
My Wii broke, so I lost like so much of that stuff. So yeah, that's kind of a bummer. It's almost like being robbed in a way, losing all this stuff. So it'd be really nice if Nintendo finally had like an account system.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, prediction. I guess this kind of goes off what we've been talking about, but I predict there's been a lot of talking on the internet about whether the games shown in that trailer were real or not. Prediction, every single one of them is real. Or at least the first-party ones. The Nintendo ones, all of those are real. They're all coming. Being the enhanced Mario Kart, Splatoon, and of course the 3D Mario. Those are all real, and I'm gonna kind of loop back into Smash a bit. I think Smash is also going to be an enhanced port, and I wonder if they might be pulling a GameCube here, where they launch with several big games, and the Smash comes like the following month, because that came out in December for the GameCube, and that sold extremely well, as I recall.
Yeah, I actually think, that came out a few months later. So, no, I agree that, I don't know if Smash will be launch. I think they're going to trumpet Mario Kart for launch. And I think
so too.
I think Smash will follow up, maybe in a month or two down the line, or definitely within the first 6 months, but I think it's going to be Mario Kart at launch, Smash a couple of months later. And I think that makes a lot of sense. The thing we haven't talked about yet is Splatoon. Well, actually, no, Roger, I think you did touch on Splatoon briefly.
Yeah, June. Right. I almost definitely think it's going to be June, right before E3. That's my guess for the exact day.
Splatoon.
Wow. Oh my god.
I mean, Nintendo does seem to be kind of almost taking an esports angle with Splatoon, so I do expect it on the Switch rather soon, early into the console's life. How soon? It's hard to say, but June feels a little... Well, actually, no. March? No, that sounds about right. No, I'm going to say I agree with you, Roger. I think June sounds about right for Splatoon, and the original version of Splatoon also launched in June, so that also kind of, nice bit of symmetry there.
I think it launched in May.
Oh, was it May? Okay, I thought it was June.
Maybe May then.
Yeah.
Not far off.
Yeah.
Just touching on what you said, Andre, about every game in the trailer being real, I agree, and I also think that Skyrim will be a launch title. Skyrim HD, alongside Just Dance, which is not exactly that much of a prediction because Just Dance releases on everything at launch, it seems. So I do think there will be a Just Dance at launch, but I also think Skyrim is real and will be a launch title.
So I'm going to say something that's a little bit controversial. That's not like me, I know, but brace yourself. The Mario Kart stuff that we saw, I think we're probably reading way too much into that, and I think that it's not really indicative of what they're doing with that game, and maybe they just wanted to have some sort of Mario Kart identity in the trailer, and when we see it further in development, we're going to realize, oh, this isn't really an enhanced port, this is much more closer to a totally new game.
Well, now you're spoiling the Mario Kart discussion, Josh. Wait a minute.
I don't remember if I said that in the Mario Kart discussion. But yeah, no, I think, you asked if we thought they were tech demos. I don't think any of that is tech demos. I think it's all games in development, but I do think that the degrees of how far along those games are in development is different than we might think. We look at that Mario Kart thing and we think, oh, they're making a Mario Kart 8 port, but I don't know if that necessarily proves that that's what they're doing.
I don't really see how they could have a time to make a Mario Kart 9, a completely new Mario Kart let alone something like a completely new Smash in the time that it has taken. You know, there really hasn't been that much of an intervening time window between Mario Kart 8 and now. So I don't know if I see this being a completely new game. I'm still kind of on the enhanced port bandwagon.
Well, Mario Kart 8 launched in 2014. That's about 2 years ago.
That was 3 years after Mario Kart 7, and by 2017, that'll have almost been 3 years as well.
That's true.
Right.
I guess the question is if the DLC impacted that. I don't know. Has the Mario Kart team been up to any other games since then?
We don't
no
I don't
idea.
think we know.
Let me ask this question. Has Nintendo been up to any other games?
And that's why you have the reputation you do, Josh.
I'm just kidding.
Man, that's so that opens up a can of worms. So Josh, going off what you're saying, then it sounds like you don't think Mario Kart will be a launch title then, right? It couldn't be if it's.
I don't know. I think if anything, it might make summer, and I don't think Splatoon is coming out as soon as people think. Because Splatoon doesn't look like a port to me. Splatoon looks like it's actually all new stuff for the most part. It was a new level. They had new hairstyles. They had new clothing.
That's what I thought too, but everyone keeps linking me to some source that said that, like, Nintendo said that it's an enhanced port. But that's exactly what I thought too, and I did a video on it.
New.
And people were crucifying me.
As far as I know, Nintendo hasn't said. I don't think Nintendo's commented on the games at all. Besides the fact that we shouldn't assume they're real.
Okay,
Right.
No, I think it was Emily Rogers who said that they are enhanced ports, and that's something she had reported even before the Switch was announced. But I agree, like, that one definitely looks the most distinct, well, I guess, of the two ports, the two first-party ports they showed. That one, everything there is literally new, basically. It's a new map, it looks like new weapons to some degree, new hairstyles, new clothing. You can wear shorts now, or change your shorts.
There's also new shoes. Of course, I noticed there were new shoes.
So. Yeah, of course, right.
And pants, they're wearing pants.
I mean, I really wouldn't be surprised if, regardless of, I mean, maybe it's a battle of semantics at that point. I wouldn't be surprised if they brand that game, maybe not as Splatoon 2, but also not as a port. Maybe, give it a subtitle or something. I do think they maybe treat that as more of a new game than what a lot of people might be thinking. In terms of Mario Kart, though, getting back to that one, I'm leaning toward it being an enhanced port. Although I would love if I'm wrong on that, and that you're right, Josh. Maybe it's just a tease of what could be a fuller, more complete new experience. But I don't think they would have gone to the effort of mocking up, that or, whatever that was, and not having a game resemble that comes out.
You sound so excited, whatever that was.
I mean, we just don't know for sure, right?
So here's the other alternative that I've been thinking about. What if this Mario Kart is literally, it's Mario Kart 8, but that makes it have, like 35, if not more tracks right out of the gate, and then they continue that DLC thing where they're like, hey, there's going to be more coming, or hey, make a battle mode and a mission mode added on to, like, the Mario Kart 8 experience. I'd buy that in a second. So maybe this Mario Kart, if it is in fact a port, is just all about advertising itself as being the most robust Mario Kart ever in terms of how many tracks are in the game. And of course, they can make some new tracks. They can make, like, 4 new cups of tracks. It's, they've had time to do that.
That actually...
So it could be all about numbers.
That actually touches on something we've talked about before, at least Andre, Derek, and I think we might have touched on this before with you as well, though, Josh. And that is that Mario Kart going forward, it might be better for it to be a platform than specific titles.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I'm right there with you. Spoiler alert for the discussion we're about to have. I made that argument alongside Andre in the Mario Kart Switch discussion. I absolutely think it would be so wise to make it like a platform similar to something like Overwatch, where they just keep adding new content to it, but it's supposed to have like a really long lifespan.
Yeah, I completely agree.
Yeah, it's one of their strongest franchises. So it makes sense to not just be like, oh, there's the Mario Kart, okay, bye. Keeping that going is, at this time, definitely needed, I think.
Well, and that's another reason why I think it'll be a launch title, as I think you touched on, Ash, because that is literally one of the biggest games out there. The Wii U one sold remarkable, given how small that install base is. I think it's like almost half.
Oh, it's more than half. It was 8 million out of 13 million.
And then Mario Kart Wii as well sold a ridiculous amount, like what, 30, 40 million? I can't remember. It was something nuts.
Yeah.
That's why I think that game will be a launch title, and and it's possible they're also maybe working on a true Mario Kart 9, at the same time. Maybe this is
I don't see that happening.
Really?
Yeah.
I mean, if this is as much of a port as it seems like it might be based on what we saw, I could totally see I don't want to say real Mario Kart, a more full sequel coming out, a couple years down the line.
But why not just add to this one with DLC?
Because you can make a new Mario Kart that feels different. Like, most Mario Karts change up things to some degree between games. This one, and this one might be too as we get into our discussion. But it's hard to tell at this point. But
it's really hard to predict what Nintendo's going to do with the games that they showed us.
Yeah.
This is typical Nintendo. They leave us like questioning so many things.
They do.
I'm gonna make a bold prediction though and step away from Mario Kart for a second.
Thank you.
Yes, so because I feel like we've been talking about Mario Kart for way too long, and I fell in the same trap with Josh's discussion. The two of us talked about Mario Kart for like 20 minutes. So here's my bold prediction.
And unfortunately, we're going to have to wait until part 2 to hear his bold prediction, because we're cutting it off here. And rest assured, there's plenty of other bold predictions too. So stay tuned for part 2 of our Nintendo Switch predictions coming up very soon. And as soon as it goes up, we'll add a link to the description below. And of course, make sure to subscribe if you haven't already, as you'll get an alert as soon as it goes up. Alright guys, thanks for watching, and of course stay tuned to Game Explain for more on the Nintendo Switch and other things gaming too. Catch you later, bye.